Hi, everyone, and welcome to this virtual discussion, AI in the television and media industry. My name is Michelle McHugh. I am the program director for the Palo Harron Graduate Program in television and media management at Drexel University and a professor in our undergraduate film and television program. With us today, we have two panelists who are working with AI in the media industry every day. Chris Palo is the VP of Digital Lifestyle and Entertainment at McClatchy Media. McClatchy is a well-respected source of journalism, celebrity and lifestyle magazine brands, and advertising solutions across digital and print platforms. Sanjana Babu is also with us today. She is a paid media manager with VaynerMedia, a full-service digital agency that helps brands grow through strategic storytelling, creative content, and data-driven marketing across platforms. Both are graduates of the Television and Media Management program here at Drexel. Let's get started. This question is for both of you. AI is often seen as a tool that enhances speed and scale and makes things more efficient for people across industries. But when it comes to creative work, specifically in the media and television industry, when it comes to tone and voice, it gets a little tricky. So how are your teams balancing AI's efficiency with the need for authentic, human-centered storytelling?
I'll take this one. We do it in a couple different ways. The efficiency part, I think, is something we all do on a regular basis. That's the first thing. That's the first step out of the gate for almost anything that we do, not just with AI. We look for that in all of our programs. So that's not AI centric, I don't think. I think all of us as managers look for that in pretty much everything that we do. So I don't think when we talk about AI, that's AI specific. When we talk about tone and voice and elements like that, we see it in almost all of our content that we work with. And so we look at it in a couple different ways. We look for it in efficiency, but then we have to have people over top of it at all times. So that can be in headline writing, that can be in research, that can be in first drafts, second drafts, depending on what it is. So it happens from the get-go, but throughout the process for us. There's definitely obstacles to it, and it's not something that I don't think is going to be trying to find the correct word to put it. It's not something that's going to be overcome in instantaneously here. But at the same time, we're using it on a regular basis all the time. So Sanjana, I don't know if there's something on your side of the aisle that you're seeing for it, but we see it as certainly an opportunity for us.
I agree. AI and creativity is pretty much new and something that we've just started off with, especially when it comes to paid media side of things. Most of it at the current moment in the industry where we use it mainly is for generating storyboards, and most of the use cases revolve around when it comes to creative, it's just generating ideas or thought starters. But it definitely does get tricky when it comes to generating the authenticity, because users and audiences are super they recognize what's authentic and what's AI generated and what's not. And so when it comes to those kind of use cases, something that we've always tapped into to keep the authenticity and keep the organic virality a little more ongoing is to tap into more of culture and trend rather than solely depending on AI to move media or move brand strategy forward. So there are small nuances to AI into how it's going to be integrated into driving effective media for brands. But at the current moment, I would say AI is mostly used with generating thought starters and getting started off with creative ideation.
Are there examples of where AI surprised you creatively?
Yes, with image recognitions, and certainly there have been a lot of where a user can upload a picture online to any of the AI tools, and generate different artistic point of view of something like a Ghibli studio image quality. That is somewhere where we are starting to see a lot more AI come into play, especially platforms like Snapchat, TikTok, that uses AI generated filters where brands are now tapping into creative ways to interact with their consumers, especially their growth consumers, where Gen Z is actively using and playing a key part in content consumptions across those platforms. I think brands find it really incredibly useful to tap into AI filters through that way. And it surprises us in terms of how those can be leveraged and the ways that we can like actually connect with the audiences in a lot more personable way by just using different AI features.
I want to shift a little bit from the creative side to more of the audience research side. And this question is for Chris. Chris, how are your teams using AI to understand what lifestyle and entertainment content resonates with your audience?
This is something that I think there's a misconception that AI is new. It's not that new. It's been used for a very long time. So from that standpoint, we've been using it for a very long time to analyze the past. And I think that aspect of it is something that we use all the time. So we can analyze the past. We've been doing it for years. Then the newer portion is really the predictive portion of it. What can we take from that past and then predict into the future, and what people are going to consume from us? And is that articles? Is that videos? Is it podcasts? Whatever that's going to be. The most interesting thing for us, I think, is where the connections that get made. And I think you mentioned creativity in the last question. This is where it's creative in my mind is there's a lot of connections where we don't necessarily see them, where you can logically see a connection between, say, someone that attended Drexel, right? We're obviously here for this reason, right? Or a TV management program. And then they might also be interested in, say, film or advertising or something like that. But you also might not make a connection to, say, basketball, right? Obviously, we have a good basketball team, right? And then it goes in that direction where then you start going into sports, for example. So for us, we're finding new avenues there that are very successful for us. So a good example for us would be Us Weekly, entertainment magazine. It's existed for a very long period of time. We're finding a lot of success in sports, for example, where you'd say, wait, why is that happening? And there's a lot of success there around sports figures, the individuals, the stories that they do, how much they make, et cetera, what they do outside of the actual sports. We're not going to do scores. We're not doing that kind of stuff. But we're finding those connections in ways that our folks, like our journalists, don't necessarily find on the surface, right? Like we do a lot of our own dives into the stories themselves, but we're not going to find those right off the surface. And then it complements that, right? From an audience development standpoint, you can then apply those resources to go say, okay, what's the next thing that we can dive into? So it's very interesting to me.
Thank you. And to Sanjana, how is AI helping your teams go deeper than basic demographics to build culturally relevant content?
Yeah, AI has been a key and integral part of our audience strategy. We've been using it for cohort ideas and generation for when it comes to just building out those culturally relevant audiences. And we've been using it to generate like what's something that's trending, what our audience is searching up for when it comes to just like overall where are they actively searching for those products or certain things when it comes to or certain kind of media that they are looking for. And predominantly when we think about advertising and paid media strategy and when we think about cohorts and how do we like segment these audiences and drive those key performance metrics for the different brands, we definitely have AI generating those cohorts for us. But there is a small caveat to it that it does not necessarily have 100% of accuracy in terms of like that is the audience that we would really like to tap into, or the most relevant, because there are certain biases when it comes to AI. So there is an amount of that. We take it more of like a directional way. We have that to open up conversations and start creative ideations based on the cohorts. And it's a great tool to kind of identify the various trends and most recent, anything that's currently happening or anything that brands are kind of looking to tap into, is somewhere we use a lot of AI. But definitely at the current moment, where my day-to-day involves is probably using AI in a more directional way rather than taking for exact facts or direct reporting basis.
Thank you. I want to pivot now to the operational side and talk a little bit about transforming workflows through AI. And Sanjana, this question is again for you. What are some parts of paid media strategy or creative testing that AI has really helped streamline for your team?
So there are multiple workflows that we've kind of integrated AI into. The first one mainly comes into just how search media works. We've been using tools through Google and Meta when it comes to just basically search media and running shopping campaigns through these platforms. And some of which, for example, when just running a shopping campaign through Google, we've been using something known as performance max campaigns. So the whole idea behind this is to prompt the tool to say that this is my messaging, this is my objective, and this is my target CPM goal that I'd like to reach, or my budget goal that I'd like to reach. And this is from an executional point of view, we set a campaign up. And then the AI generates, or the platform regenerates these creatives into more dynamic creatives and designs messaging and creatives that caters to the most relevant audiences, so that it drives those engagement with driving those higher view rates and driving those higher clicks. So there is an amount of platform integration within with AI that helps us drive those client objectives using these AI tools. And additionally to this, we also have, when we do a competitive research for the different brands, that is also somewhere we've been able to incorporate AI as one of the workflows. It's definitely helped us pull in more data and actually provide a more better storytelling of the data we see. And we've been able to do a lot more competitive research as to what other brands or some products out there are doing differently, and how they are strategizing their audiences. And it also gives us an idea of how do we use those data into placing our brands within the media landscape. So these two are some of the more strategic use cases of where we've been able to integrate AI, but a lot more is coming in, trickles down into how we analyze data. So that is where we've been from a day-to-day perspective, has the most use case when we deal with a lot of data, and how we can integrate it from a day-to-day perspective, and how can we segment those data and be better storytellers and use those to further optimize and implement strategies that drive results for the brands.
Thank you. And my colleague, Nick Judician, has a comment that I'll address now. And this question is going to be either for Chris or Sanjana. But do you have any examples of which tools you're using, how you use them, what problems they solve, whether it's staying with our current conversation focus, which is workflow, or another area, creative or audience research?
Sanjana, do you want to, or I mean, like we have we use 5 dozen different products, to be honest, that I could probably like, and they do a variety of different things, right? And so I think I almost like to think about it in a couple different ways, right? You have your base level elements that are your LLMs that everyone uses for a variety of different tasks, right? We think about it, at least where I work, and every single person at our company should be using them for a variety of things, right? Whether that's writing emails to working on business plan, right? Um, as a efficiency thing to answer your question, Michelle, about that, kind of how you use it operationally. I did a business plan that would have taken me a week last week. I did it in one day using a variety of different tools. I used 3 different uh, reasoning engines to assist me last week that I normally would have had probably an assistant or 2 help me do that. Right, I needed different numbers and data sets that went into that, and that's using a variety of different ones from O3 to Claude and Gemini, and putting them together. Right, we have other tools. Some are legacy ones like True Anthem, which people don't realize has also been using AI for a long period of time for social distribution, right? That's a singular tool that we do. We quote unquote set it and forget it. We obviously massage that with the team over there from True Anthem that sends out our content, right? To a variety of different places from Facebook to X, et cetera, right? And that's designed to optimize. And then we have ones that we're not going to talk about with you, right? That are custom within our CMS systems that we put into our operations to optimize elements. They usually use a variety of different engines. So, and I kid you not when I say there's dozens of them that we use at this point in time, and we're evaluating them at all times. And when I say we're evaluating them, I mean we're evaluating them. They come and go. I would say probably the one piece of advice that I would give for anyone who's running a business would be long-term contracts right now are not a thing that I would go for, because you're probably going to switch them out interchangeably because there's a new model that you're probably going to use. And a lot of you probably get some nice deals right now with some of the startups that are doing some really nice things because they want to get their customer count up. You can be a part of that, which is really nice. So that's one piece of advice there. A second one is some of their models in terms of their business models won't necessarily work depending on how they're operating because of the pricing models are going to change on how their entire business model works. So it's entirely possible that something you're using today will not even exist tomorrow. And that's not because the product is not good or doesn't do a good job for you, but because their actual system will not work. And that's not because, again, the AI doesn't work or the engine underneath it doesn't work. But again, that's more of an academic thing that has nothing to do with us as a business doing a good job. That's just the nature of the business and how it runs when it's evolving. That's how innovation works. So if there's a specific section you want to dive into, we could go real deep into whether it's ad tech or creative production. Each section has dozens of their own. It's fun, honestly, right now. There's a lot of opportunity out there.
For someone like folks who are in this webinar who perhaps are not using these tools every day, how do you cut through the clutter? And that's for either Sanjana or Chris. Is it just getting in there and digging around and playing with these tools? Is there a real answer to that?
There are different ways of looking at it. So one is, I completely agree when it comes to day-to-day organizational point of view of using AI, like working through emails and data sets and different things. Then of course we do use Gemini and ChatGPT as part of like AI integration. But when we do kind of look at it from a media buying and executional point of view, there are tools that are in-platform built. So for example, Meta has their own versions of AI where we're able to generate ad copies that are dynamic to use the same messaging and deliver it to the most relevant audiences. There are AI generated like thumbnails that we can go into like in-platform users as well. So even from just like driving performance results point of view, when it comes to like trying to figure out what's the best way to go about it. Using those in-platform AI tools has definitely been something that we've been able to leverage and uh, use more of those from a day-to-day perspective. And so to the point of like, how do we like move through there's so many tools out there. From my point of view, I would say it's that it depends completely on the use case and as well as what are the different offerings when it comes to being very specific with where we're running those media and what's the integrated AI tool that's available, as well as can we incorporate any third-party AI tools within it. So there's different ways to go about it, but the most easiest way to work with the multiple AI tools is just to find those use cases.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I like to think about it in two different ways. If I look at a tool and they have partnerships with a lot of other tools that are existing tools, that's a shorthand right now, right? If they're working with a lot of other tools and their partnerships, they have APIs into those other tools. Guess what? They're there, right? They're doing what they need to be doing. If they have the right amount of financing in the background, back end, you can look at that very quickly and know that they're for real. There's a lot of hyperbole. If someone tells you it can do 17 things, well, it probably does 17 things poorly, is my guess, right? Does it do one particular thing really well? That's what it's designed to do. And you're looking for it to do that one or two things. Go with that. Like, try that thing out for the thing you need it to do. Because underneath the hood of most of them is going to be the same, especially if you're talking about Gen AI, they're going to be the same couple of engines underneath it. So that's a quick little way to look at their website and you can find out. And if you can't find a lot of information about it, then it's probably not worth your time. And I would just move on to the next one. Because if you don't have a lot of time to experiment with them, that's fine. Move on from them. Someone else will experiment with them. And if they succeed, then they'll circle back around and they'll have tested it out for you. And that's great. Then they've used their sweat equity and you'll get to benefit from it later. So it'll be fine.
Great advice. I want to open the floor for questions. So if you'd like to ask a question, if you could raise your electronic hand and I'll call on you in the order that those questions are asked. While I'm waiting for people to generate some questions and think about that for a while, I do want to share one question that was in the chat, and this is a really big one. How can we trust the factual accuracy of AI?
There's always who wants to take this one, right? I mean, there's a lot of research into this. I mean, it depends on what you're looking at. Is it a predictive engine or is it a generative engine? They're different things. I think you have to look at what you're looking at there, on which one you're actually looking at, because AI is a broad bucket, right? And then you dive into different things associated with it. So that's the first way to look at it, is what are you actually looking at there? But I think generally speaking, it is, in most cases, it's generating something. So it is, I think it's important to understand that it's not looking in the past in most cases and grabbing information from an encyclopedia and then providing that information back to you, right? And I think most people have probably heard this already many, many times over, but I think it's important for you to understand that. And if you don't understand that, I'm sure you should take a course at Drexel, right? And you can find out about more information from that or on why that is in particular, but it's not necessarily going to be giving you that factual information. That said, there are a lot of new engines that exist, a lot of new AI tools that bolt on search engines, that bolt on other information. But I will say, to that end, there's always a question that pops up with me that I always ask my own colleagues. And I always ask this question. If you're a journalist right now and you're using Google from a search engine standpoint, how do you know what you're searching for is correct as well? You have to do your own research. You have to do your own efforts to do those things as well. So from that end, you have to do a job anyway yourself as a human to go figure out what is correct. So there is a level of legwork that you have to do there, whether you're using AI, whether you're using a classic search engine, whether you go to the library, right? There's facts within books that weren't necessarily correct as well. But but I do think the access to it and the ability for me to pick this guy up right now and use it very well, like very quickly, and go use it really fast, allows for a lot more dissemination of what could be questionable information. So it's I always like to say to all my students and all my colleagues, it's like use your brain, right? That's always like got to use your brain. So
Thank you. This question is in the chat for Sanjana, and it's from David. Regarding data security when sharing critical data like images and catalogs with AI tools, how can we ensure this information is not misused?
That's actually a very good question. We do see this from like a client's perspective of ensuring that IP and certain intellectual property of like that's proprietary to the brand and to very specific that is not shared across AI. So one main thing I think, just as an example of some workflows and some things that we've implemented is when we do have like client meetings, something that we do not do is have an AI note taker. So that is something that the clients have strictly like told us like there's no AI note taker that can be used just to protect the information that is being shared and discussed. And from like a brand perspective or anything that's like a limited time edition that the brand wants to put forward and it's like an upcoming plan. So to avoid most of those IP being kind of like misused is one way that brands kind of like take a look is just to avoid any AI note taker tools is one step to it. The other things that we do in terms of ensuring brand safety and not having AI integration into a lot of things is leveraging brand safety tools across most of the ads that we do run, and we've been able to use double verify and few other tagging tools where we provide a lot more restrictions and criteria to ensure that the brands run in a brand safe environment. And these ads are curated specifically to ensure that there are like digitally watermarked to ensure that they do not get kind of like misconveyed differently. So there are steps being taken in order to avoid anything that comes to AI kind of like misusing these creatives towards like using it for a different thing and uh, etc. But mainly we, as part of a lot of workflows, we do have a couple of integrations and a couple of like NDAs and a few other things to just ensure that these continue to be as part of the workflow, something that we've taken as a preventative measure to ensure that creative and IP is protected throughout.
Thank you, Sanjana. Chris, did you have anything to add to that?
bear with me, I was reading the next question. Not from a security standpoint or brand safety standpoint, not particularly. No.
Okay. Our next question, David has a follow-up question for Sanjana in the chat as well. Can Copilot be used? Copilot can be used to assist customers with suggestions and recommendations for new series and media content. Is there any such AI tool we have that can give real-time assist in the industry right now?
In terms of content generation, there's always a debate in terms of like the different tools that we can use. And part of it, different agencies and different places do have ways in which they can definitely like they have their proprietary products that they kind of use to generate these AI generated ads or images or creatives associated with it. So mainly from what we like from a VaynerMedia point of view, like the AIs that we've been part of is mostly at the creative idea generation and creating storyboards. But in terms of the actual ads that actually is being served, there is little to not a lot of AI integration within it, because we do kind of still believe that there's some amount of keeping the creative as true and authentic as possible. So probably I would say that's very subjective when it comes to the different AI tools, but that also depends from like different work streams and what you're working with, and how it integrates well within the brand strategy itself.
Thank you. If anybody else has a question, please feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat. I'm trying to juggle between the two. I want to ask both Chris and Sanjana. Let's start with Chris. What is your favorite AI tool right now for work?
I don't know. I wanted to go back actually to
Go for
the
it.
prior question. I'll answer the other one. There's an interesting tool that some colleagues that I worked with at Time have started where they within the ad market itself, kind of their theory, whether this works or not, we'll see if it goes, right? This is where startup fun happens. So it's kind of maybe an answer to yours as well. It's kind of fun where it's the idea within the market, it's like you're buying your ad inventory and they're just creating it themselves, right? So direct integration with things like VO3, right? So if I'm a small enough player and I want an ad, I don't have the money to create an ad myself, presumably. So I'm a small player and I just want to buy the inventory and have an ad created for XYZ thing. It can be created directly. So in theory, that is something that, again, it's very, very nascent right now. But that's the interesting thing of where things could go in the future is, which is always the scare. That's one of the scary ones that always pops up. It's like, oh, I want to go into advertising and make big budget, big ads and things like that. And then it's like, well, what if we cut that portion out and allow for a market to go to folks that want to buy up that smaller level of inventory that's there? So it's interesting because obviously that inventory has been using AI for a long period of time and it gets sold from, but then also it can create those ads, which those folks weren't able to create them because they didn't have the money to create them for a long period of time using Google's VO3, right? Which is all AI based. And if you haven't, which is very cool, I would highly recommend. So it kind of answers your second question, which is go check out VO3 if you haven't. Certainly that is fun to play with. Definitely go play with it if you haven't. So from that aspect, I would say go on that side. The other aspect that I find super fun from a tool standpoint is as someone who has epilepsy and has trouble with words on a regular basis, I would say the thing for me that's helped me a ton is, it sounds rudimentary and things like that, but the ability to use the reasoning engines has saved me a ton. It sounds really, really simple, but everybody in here, I kid you not, on the amount of time I'm able to be saved by using those engines. Like it is worth every penny from that standpoint. I don't know if the economics are going to work out long term for those being at the price tag that they are at currently. But if you can afford having probably two of them, I know in my classes I've said before to have one, but if you can afford to have two so you can bounce them off each other, find the two that are different from each other and you can use them cross-referencing each other, really helps where you take the output of one and then cross-reference it with another one. You can really work with them, especially if you're, again, if you're not necessarily at like the onset of your career necessarily, but if you're in middle management or higher, it really, really helps. I would say that's what really helped me.
Thank you. Sanjana, how about you? What's your favorite AI tool to use in the workplace now?
I would definitely say Gemini, because most of the products or like just data sets that I work with has to do with like spreadsheets and Google, and having Gemini as part of it in terms of just like analyzing data and looking at it from an organization point of view of like just sifting through emails and organizing them and having to like summarize a lot more of like performance data and talking more about like cohort point of view. Gemini has been something that I use a lot from a daily perspective, and something that I've been able to kind of and also just like as a use case, I do use an Android phone, and Gemini, through like just voice recognition and just being able to talk through a lot of things, uh, if there's like a topic that I would like to learn about, and does not have to be like a text-based thing of like me typing into a tool anymore. So I can just like literally talk to my phone and be able to like gain a lot more insight and knowledge on certain areas that I'd like to learn more about. And I would say Gemini has been my go-to tool for like AI.
Thank you. Scott, I want to recognize you. You have your hand up.
Thanks, everybody. So if I'm looking to build an audience for a paid media campaign, be it PPC, video, whatever, would I want, in your experience, would I want to just use a reasoning engine to figure out the demographics there, or does something more niche exist that's catered to that exact use case? If I am just using a reasoning engine, what should I use?
I mean, yes, just don't like
Yeah,
start there, right?
start there.
Yeah, I mean, it depends whichever one you're using, right? If you're using ChatGPT, use O3, right? Like start there and then toss it over to another one, right? It can be using Claude or Perplexity or Gemini as well. So I usually toss between the two, and stack it, right? So start with something and give it your parameters, right? I know you, Scott, right? So I know you start with what your parameters are and then go from there. And then do some level of deep research to start it off, and then don't I always like to say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good here, right? Once you get it going, like go and then execute against it. That's the other thing with this, is things are going to be different as of probably next week, right? So whatever I say here is going to be probably not necessarily incorrect by next week, but it will be not as good, right? And 2 weeks from now, not as good again, because that's how fast it's changing. So I would highly recommend just start there and get it going. Don't wait. That's the other one. And I don't think for anything that you're ideating like this, you're not going to need some proprietary tool for that, necessarily, because yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Other questions?
Michelle, I think that there was a question in the chat from Elizabeth Kitchens. If everyone can't see it, I'll just say it to the group. Elizabeth asks, have you eliminated jobs due to, or are you training those employees on those tools? For example, storyboards have been mentioned a couple times. Was that work done previously by a storyboard artist or an outside vendor?
I would say when it comes to AI replacing human jobs I would say we are rather adapting to working with AI rather than AI taking over like the current jobs and everything. When it comes to creative storyboards that we build for like creative ideations, we definitely have creators working on these storyboards. And AI, as of now, is more of a tool that assists and enhances the work that you do. I would say that rather than having it like completely take over what we as human beings would do. So because the strategic and thought process point of view, that I think is still more like, at least in the advertising world, is still a human dependent job. And the strategy and creative ideas and using AI to assist some of these and kind of like enhance and perfect some of those creative strategies and ideas is what I would say we use AI tools towards. But from the point of view of like, just from an agency point of view, I would say we are rather trained how to use these tools and how to integrate them within our day-to-day jobs rather than having AI replace us for any of these workflows or processes.
Thank you, Sanjana. Chris, how about you? What are you seeing?
Yeah, this comes up probably in the tech and innovation class I teach, whether it's about AI or any other innovation. We can liken this to film to digital. You can liken this to basically any innovation that's happened. It's not that jobs go away. More happens is the way I like to discuss it. More will be created. So we will be creating more content is what happens. So it's going to be more words, more video, more podcasts, more everything. Now, is that we can comment on whether that's good or whether we can consume more content as consumers? That's probably a different discussion, probably, which is an interesting one, by the way, because there's only so many hours in the day that we can consume content, right? But at the same time, from a job standpoint, it just means that the requirements for what you do at a job change. And so what I always like to tell certainly students, and even when I give advice to my coworkers, is if you are doing a specific job and that technology is going away, you should upskill yourself. So whatever that thing is, it could be anything, right? So that could be an editing software, that could be Avid, Premiere, right? Like things like that. It could be film to digital, right? Anything like that. You should always look to upskill yourself, because if you don't, then you could end up in a situation where you're not relevant, to be frank. And so in this case, AI is here. So we should all be learning it. And so at our company, every single person uses AI. We are upskilling every single person. We are not looking to get rid of anyone from that standpoint. We want people to be using it. It is an important thing. It is an important aspect to everyone's day to day. And generally speaking, we look to add it in as a, when I find the proper word here for it, it is a part of everyone's goals, right? So you may have financial incentives, you may have different things like that. It's a goal, like traffic might be a goal for some people, sales might be a goal for some people, right? Depending on the job function within the job, but also learning AI is a part of our goals. That is an important one. So which I find like, that's great. And that's leadership from our leaders who are, our CEO and everyone above my pay grade.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Nick. You have a question?
Thank you. Wondering about how you see differentiating your services, your organization, versus other competitors if everyone's working on the same AI tool sets. I mean, they're tapping into the same types of things, and there's an element of AI right now. If you're using it and you're gaining a competitive advantage because of the amount of material you can ingest and process and make decisions on, that's great. But within a certain lag period, okay, everyone's working. Everyone's using this, Gemini or the same tools. So everyone's getting the same answers. So I'm just curious as to how you see the differentiation and the creativity coming into play in here. Thank you.
Sanjana or Chris, which one wants to take that?
I can take this. So when it comes to, great question first, because it's like literally all of our competitors are typing the same thing, and we're all searching for like, how do we stand out when compared to other brands within the industry? So one thing that I would say is that's where we would like to use AI information as a directional point, like take it more from like, how do we direct our thought processes and strategize using that direction from AI, rather than solely depending on like, this is what AI generated and this is going to be my one true fact, and I'm going to like follow through and through for what the AI generates. But I would say like AI is going to give you like the top line overview. And then I think from as a media buyer, there's also part of it where it is important to understand, how do I use this information that I have generated through AI and take that into the way I think about like an audience strategy, and how can that closely correlate with the objective of the campaign that I'm running it with? What's the main KPI there? And how do I make that stand out when it comes to having the campaign being served across in an environment where there's so many advertisers and everybody is bidding and auctioning pretty much the similar way. So the direction there is, I would say, is like use AI as more of an information and use the direction to then re-strategize and differentiate yourself as a brand from what's out there in the market, and tapping into cultural and relevant moments kind of like helps us stand out as a brand and makes us, and especially reaching out to the most relevant audiences that provides that differentiator factor rather than doing the same thing what everybody else is doing. So I would say it's like finding the USP to identifying what helps the brand stand out versus just doing what everybody is doing just because it's like AI generated.
Thank you. Chris, did you want to comment on that?
The only thing I would say to layer on top of that, because I think Sandra said a really great points there, is I think of AI, or we do, I would say, is the baseline there of anything that's going to be there is going to be done by AI, right? So similarly to if you go to a streaming platform and the player experience, you expect it to be decent, right? The video should play, the ad should play, it shouldn't be a bad experience, right? There should be a baseline that's there. And though that's how I view how AI and content is going to be in the future, is you're going to have a baseline, right? If I'm getting scores for a game, I expect to get those scores everywhere. It's a baseline. And if that baseline is there, it can be there all the time. And that's an expectation from a brand, an expectation from whatever that service is going to be. And then you don't have to go anywhere else. If it's bad, that's a different story. But that's your expectation. It's like safety in a car, right? You expect your car to have a certain level of safety, right? We're going to have an expectation for a level of AI experience that's going to be there for every brand. Is kind of how I see it. And then the differentiation comes from your brand, right? Whatever your brand is, and whether that's an individual, right, an influencer, or a larger brand like the company that I work for. That's how I kind of see it.
Thank you. Sebastian, your hand is up.
Hello. Yeah, sorry. I'm in the car, so if my audio is a little bad. My question is more on the creative side. If you're using AI, not necessarily to write scripts, but maybe to like bounce ideas off of, like, does this sequence of events make sense? And should I go from A, B, and C, or maybe is it better if I do A, C, then B, or something like that? If you're asking those types of questions, is there any issue with like IP and brand security with that kind of stuff? Or like if I use it to make a storyboard of something, does it now like own the characters and the IP of the storyboard I asked to generate? Like kind of thing? Does that make sense?
Well, I would absolutely look into whatever software that you're using, right? To find out whether, because I would say, and I doubt anyone here would want to comment on this, right? Which software are you using? Look into the service level agreement on it, whether or not you're giving that up to it. So that's number one. But I mean, that's the biggest thing to check on that if you're doing it. But if you have something and you've put it in and it's come from you, then it started from you, generally speaking. This is actually an interesting discussion point that's popped up in not only our classes before, where it's, if you're asking it to give you, we all brainstorm here about an idea and we go back and forth, and Michelle has an idea, I have an idea, and then I go write the script, who owns it, right? It's just, so I guarantee something will pop up with this. There's already been some lawsuits around it. That's one that I'm not going to wade into because that's not a fun one to be a part of, I would say. But if you're concerned about it, I would obviously check in on the agreement that you're signed or you agreed to for that software before putting in I should say extracting it from there and then going and trying to sell something from it. Because certainly for us as a company, like we have agreements with many softwares on what we can do with the content we put into it, we take out of it, and whether or not we can then sell it. So it's very important that you check in on those agreements.
Thank you.
So, as someone who like, so for example, like ChatGPT, like as someone who might not have the, as a solo user, should I kind of avoid using it for that purpose if that's the case, until I can have some kind of specific agreement that might avoid any kind of copyright infringement? Or, yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I doubt that's going to be an issue in terms of like ideation and things like that. But also, again, this is one of those like I don't know what you're doing with the tool, so I'm not gonna comment on that one. But there are tons and tons of people using this. So the reality is I don't know what you're doing with it afterwards. So, but
I think also if it comes back to making sure that you're reading up on the tool that you are using, which Chris talked about,
exactly.
even if you're not with an organization that's signed a service contract, make sure you know the parameters of ownership and rights within ChatGPT or whether it's Gemini or whatever it might be. So it would require research on the user's part.
Yeah, because parts of it also have to do with how you're prompting it in terms of what there's other issues that are popping up from this in terms of what it's been trained on and like things that are you asking it to emulate someone else's work, right? Are you asking it to emulate, say, books that I've written, right? And then there are issues in terms of things like that, right? Are you feeding it a whole bunch of information from someone else and then saying write a book that's exactly the same as Chris Palo did, right? That could be, again, there's a lot of nuance to your question. And I think it's important to note that there's a lot of nuance within that. And ultimately, they're providing you with software and they're going to say they're a platform likely, right? And as a platform, they're going to go like this, which is exactly, it makes sense. That's what they're going to do. So.
Thank you. I know this gets us to prompting as well, and there's a question in the chat about prompting. Joe is going to share that question with us.
So
it won't be our final question, by the way, because we're running short on time.
And I think I'll ask the question. I think it's been covered throughout answering some of the other questions. So I'll just say, if there's anything else to add, just how can we make prompts effective? Because this plays a very important role in giving more effective results. Will it be good to use AI to generate the prompts that we ask AI? So I know we've been talking about prompts and how to feed information, but anything else to add with specifically to that question?
Yes,
Chris?
and yes.
Okay.
Yes, you should definitely. So you should. Well, I mean, for stack prompting is starting a thing. So put prompts on prompts and prompts, right? To learn that. There's a couple just key pieces of advice there to do that. There's tens of thousands now of examples of how best to prompt in different variety of services, right? Each one's slightly different, but I think each one is different. Each one has a certain personality. You're going to have to get used to that. But stack prompting is a good way to do it. Number one. Number two, I like the idea, and if you can, when using these tools, to think about it from also the idea of stack engineering, which is weird because I know most of you are not necessarily engineers on here, and neither am I. But stack engineering is like a concept where if you're going to do something more than once, take the time and think about it. And then once you've kind of done your prompting, once you've figured it out, you can go back and be like, I'm going to do this like 15 times a week. Go back, copy it out, or make a GPT that you're going to do yourself or whatever it is. Take the time and do it because it will save you time next time and then next time and then next time. And once you stack it and stack it and stack it, all the returns you get are going to just stack on top of each other, which is really, really great. And that's just in one case. And you were talking prompt engineering, but imagine that, then apply it to the next tool, to the next tool, to the next tool, to the next tool. And you get a ton more from doing that is what I would suggest. That's once you start doing that, that's the gold, in my opinion. You're going to start saving tons and tons of time and efficiency there. And then my third piece is try different ones. They're all different. It's like different personalities. They all try and please you in different ways. So they're all different. Just like everyone on here is a different personality. Some people talk fast, some people talk slow, some people try to charm you. They're all different. So try them all. They're all different.
Thank you. And this will be our final question. And I'm going to start with Sanjana and then we'll come back to Chris. But this is a question that all of us have as we're navigating the job market and we're looking at these new skills that we all need to learn and to embrace. What has AI changed about what makes a candidate stand out in a pool of job candidates? And how do you look for that and uncover that when you're hiring for your teams?
So I would say one thing that stands out from just like looking at from the hiring process is knowledge across like the different AI tools and how you can utilize them towards driving those efficiencies, and kind of like talking more to the point of like I recognize this AI tool, and this is how I would like to like utilize my knowledge in it to drive efficiency and drive further performances for the company, and then like providing more of that context as to how is one way you can definitely stand out from everybody else. In terms of like just being able to have the knowledge, or like just being able to like have platform certifications, is more of what we would like to look at from a candidate. Is more of how is this person who has all these AI knowledge and AI tools as part of their arsenal is able to use that within the certain like data sets or things that they're working through and drive those efficiencies. And I think the other way that stands out is to understand the cultural and trending relevance that is ongoing, and kind of like staying up to date as to what's happening out there in the world, where users are actively searching or buying or shopping, and understanding those user behaviors is a key context towards like being a standout candidate as well. So just overall understanding user consumption of content, because there's like hundreds and hundreds of content, and a key towards like understanding how user behavior works and how content is consumed. And from a strategy point of view, or like as a media buyer or a planner, a key skill would be to know these ongoing trends and understand the different audience behavior across these platforms, and keeping that in mind, and how do we like use the AI tools as part of a way to integrate all of these as part of the storytelling and data processing point of view. So I think for me, when I look at someone, or like when we're like looking someone to stand out among everybody else, cultural relevance, and then just kind of like ways in which you can communicate the story of driving those efficiencies makes the person stand out.
Thank you. And before I boot it over to Chris for his thoughts on a question, I want to add in a question from one of our students joining us in the fall in the master's program in television and media management, Delani Rimp. Her question in the chat are questions about familiarity with different AI tools becoming more normalized in the interview process. Do I need to come to that interview prepared to talk about these AI tools?
That's a really smart question. I would say the answer is both yes and no. And what I mean by that is, if you have a hyper-specific job, right? I'm going to be a writer on a team, right? For us, right? We're a digital publisher. And there's certain tools, right, for that job. You should know your tools. That's a fact, right? And that would be the same as anything. If you're a camera operator, you should know what a camera is, right? You should know those tools. And you should know the AI tools that go with that. But you should also be humble that you're not going to know everything. And I think that's what it is it AI is expanding so fast. I don't know everything. Everybody on this panel doesn't know everything. So as long as you're hungry and interested to learn, that's what matters. And if you come off that way in an interview that you're interested to learn about AI and you're growing and you have some examples of how you're using it, if you have one or two examples, that's going to be enough in an interview, I think. But if you don't have any, that's bad. You're not, I mean, you're out, you're toast at that point.
Thank you. We are at time. I wanted to thank our panelists for being here with us today. Chris and Sanjana, thank you so much. To learn more about the Paul F. Harron Graduate Program in Television and Media Management at Drexel University, visit our website at drexel.edu/TVMM.